Hey folks, Ray Cole here from Audio Legend. Listen up, if you've only got $300 in your pocket right now, I'm about to show you something that might genuinely shock you. You can walk away with a pair of speakers for under 300 bucks that will embarrass a lot of so-called high-end speakers, costing 5 or even 10 times more. But here's the truth, while many speakers in this price range are disappointing, a few of them are genuine bargains that can really impress. Today I'm going from worst to first 9 real speakers you can actually buy right now for under $300. No sugarcoating, no hype. Just straight talk. The number one pick. It's an absolute game changer. It's the kind of speaker that makes you question why people are spending thousands when something this good is sitting quietly on the used market. If you're tired of wasting money on big brand names that don't deliver, you're in the right place. And if you enjoy Real, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future rankings and buying guides. We drop new videos every week. All right, let's dive in, starting with the worst value under $300, Bose 201 Series 4, worst value. Let's start at the bottom with the Bose 201 Series 4. Right now on the used market, a clean pair in good cosmetic condition will typically run you about $150 to $250. Bose built one of the most recognizable names in consumer audio through aggressive marketing and their famous direct reflecting technology. The 201 uses a single 5-inch full-range driver angled upward to bounce sound off the wall, supposedly creating a wide, spacious stereo image without needing precise speaker placement. On paper and in department store demos back in the day, it sounded like a clever solution for average living rooms, but here's the real-world truth. After spending time with them, the sound feels wide, but incredibly vague and unfocused. The imaging is diffuse. Instruments and vocals seem to float around the room rather than having a solid, defined position. You don't get that oh wow moment where the singer feels like they're standing right in front of you. The bass is the biggest disappointment. Despite the marketing, it rolls off early and lacks real punch or extension below 60. 70 hertzes, it never delivers that satisfying chest feel you want when listening to rock, hip-hop, or electronic music. The mid-range is veiled and lacks fine detail, making vocals sound a bit distant and recessed instead of intimate and emotional. Treble is polite but rolled off, so cymbals and high-frequency details don't sparkle the way they should. I've tried these with everything from Norah Jones ballads to classic rock, and they consistently feel like they're hiding the music rather than revealing it. The biggest problem, you're mostly paying for the Bose name and nostalgia. For the same $200, speakers, we'll talk about later in this list, deliver noticeably tighter bass, clearer and more detailed mids, sharper imaging, and zero dependency on perfect room reflections. Restoration is another headache. Parts availability is limited compared to other vintage brands. And if the drivers start degrading or the internal wiring corrodes, you're looking at real trouble and potentially higher repair costs. My advice, if you're considering these only, buy them if you find an absolute steal in mint condition, and you mainly listen at low volumes for background music. Otherwise, steer clear. Bose made incredibly clever marketing and created a unique concept, but they didn't make $200 speakers that deliver real high-fidelity performance. In today's used market, this is the worst value in the ranking. Hands down. Subscribe for more real talk on budget hi-fi. Cerwin Vega D, or 5 smaller models. Moving up to the Cerwin Vega D3 and D5. Right now, a decent pair in playable condition usually sells for $180 to $280. Cerwin Vega made their name in the 1970s and 80s as the kings of high-sensitivity, party-ready bass. These smaller D-series models were designed to rock hard with relatively low power thanks to their big voice coils and efficient woofers. A lot of people still remember them fondly from dorm rooms and house parties back in the day. When you first crank them up, the bass definitely hits hard and fun. There's real slam and weight in the low end that the Bose 201 at #9 could only dream of. If you're playing classic rock, EDM, or hip-hop and want that chest-thumping energy, these speakers deliver in spades. The high sensitivity means they get loud easily, even with modest amplifiers. But here's where the honeymoon ends. Spend more than 20 to 30 minutes listening critically, and the flaws become obvious. The mid-range's noticeably recessed vocals and guitars sit way back in the mix, making them feel distant and somewhat veiled. Push the volume up, and the treble quickly turns harsh and fatiguing, especially on brighter recordings. The soundstage is narrow, and imaging isn't particularly precise. I tested these with everything from Marvin Gaye soul to modern pop and jazz. They're enjoyable for upbeat party music, but they get tiring fast with vocal-heavy or acoustic tracks compared to the Bose at #9. They clearly win on raw bass energy and fun factor. However, they still fall short of the smoother, more balanced experience you'll get from the Polk Monitor and higher-ranked models on this list. Restoration is almost guaranteed. The foam surrounds on these woofers rot quickly. Most pairs from this era need refoaming. Budget $60 to $90 per driver. And plan to do both woofers. Crossovers can also benefit from new capacitors. It's doable, but expect to invest time and money soon after purchase. Buying advice: inspect the surrounds carefully before buying. Test them at both low and high volumes. These are best suited for listeners who prioritize bass impact and don't mind the compromises in clarity and fatigue. They're fun, rowdy, and full of character, but they don't do everything well. That's exactly why they land at number 8. If you only want bass and loudness for parties, they're still playable. But if you're looking for an all-rounder you can enjoy for hours, much better options are coming up. Subscribe and stay tuned. Pioneer CS 7030 or similar budget CS series coming in at number 7. We have the Pioneer CS 7030 and its many budget CS series siblings. Right now, clean pairs typically sell between $120 and $220 on the used market. Pioneer absolutely ruled the receiver world in the 1970s, and they produced tons of speakers to bundle with those receivers. Some of the higher-end CS models were legitimate attempts to compete with JBL and KLH, but the budget ones like the CS 7030 were mostly designed as affordable companion pieces built to sound decent in a showroom and move units. When you sit down and actually listen to them, the first thing you notice is how thin the overall presentation is. The low end is pretty weak. There's not much weight or authority below 60-70 hertzes. So, kick drums and bass guitar feel light and underwhelming. The mid-range is a bit recessed, making vocals and guitars sit further back in the mix than they should. The treble is acceptable but lacks sparkle and air, so cymbals and hi-hats don't have that nice shimmer. They can handle light pop, easy listening, or background music just fine. But the moment you play anything with real bass energy or complex layering, think classic rock, funk, hip-hop, or orchestral music, they start to fall apart. The sound becomes congested and loses control quickly. I've heard these paired with vintage Pioneer receivers like the SX636 or SX737. In small rooms at moderate volumes, they're listenable, but they never give you that wow. This is really good feeling that the better speakers on this list deliver. Compared to the Cerwin Vega at #8, these lack that raw, fun bass energy, and they don't have the warm, easygoing mid-range you get from the Polk Monitor. 4/5 coming up next. For roughly the same money, you can do significantly better. One of the biggest frustrations with these budget Pioneer speakers is inconsistency. Because so many were mass-produced as package deals, build quality and sound signature can vary a lot from pair to pair. Some sound surprisingly decent, while others feel cheap and lifeless. If you're thinking about picking up a pair, my strong advice is to test them thoroughly before buying. Listen to familiar tracks with real bass and vocals. Check the foam surrounds. They often need refoaming, but that job is usually straightforward and cheap. Around $40, 60 per woofer. Replacement drivers and parts are still fairly easy to find. These speakers aren't terrible, but they don't excel at anything either. They're the definition of average unless you find a killer deal on a nicer CS model or you're on an extremely tight budget and mainly need something for casual background listening. They just don't bring enough to the table to rank higher. That's why the Pioneer Budget CS series lands at number 7 on this list. They're playable, but there are much more rewarding options as we move further up. Subscribe and drop a comment on what you want next. Polk Audio Monitor 4 or 5 Number 6 brings us a pair that a lot of people still have a soft spot for, the Polk Audio Monitor 4 and Monitor 5. Right now, good condition pairs are selling between $140 and $250. Have you ever wanted a speaker that's just easy to live with? That's exactly what these Polks were designed to be. In the late 70s and early 80s, Polk built their reputation on musical, forgiving speakers that sounded good, even with average electronics. And the Monitor series is a textbook example of that easygoing house sound. What I really like about them is the warm, smooth mid-range. Vocals sound full-bodied, and pleasant male voices have nice weight. Female vocals are sweet without being shouty. They're surprisingly forgiving with older or lower quality recordings, which makes them great for digging through thrift store vinyl or streaming older albums. These speakers are also very easy to drive. Even modest vintage receivers or small modern amps can make them sing at reasonable volumes. However, there are clear limitations. The bass is a bit loose and bloated, it's there, but it lacks the tightness and control. You'll hear from higher ranked speakers on this list, the soundstage is fairly narrow, so you don't get that big, immersive. Speakers disappear feeling imaging is okay, but not pinpoint accurate. When you push the volume, the treble can start to glare a little on brighter tracks. They shine with laid-back music where you just want to relax. Think James Taylor, Fleetwood Mac, or Norris Jones. But when I switched to more demanding material like Steely Dan or jazz trios, the lack of resolution and bass precision became obvious. These are noticeably more enjoyable for long listening sessions. They're warmer, smoother, and less fatiguing. But when you stack them against the JBL L26 or KLH models higher up, they lose out on accuracy, bass, tightness, and overall refinement. The JBL brings more energy and punch, while the KLH feels more balanced and natural. They're not bad speakers at all, they're just not exciting enough for the serious listener who wants precision and dynamics, buying and maintenance tips. Always check the foam surrounds carefully. They rot faster than many other brands from this era. A full refoam usually runs $50.80 per driver and is a fairly straightforward job. The cabinets are generally solid, but watch out for water damage on the bottom edges. Crossovers are simple and usually don't need major work. If your goal is relaxed, non-fatiguing sound for everyday background, or casual listening in a small to medium room, the Polk Monitor 4 or 5 can still serve you well, but if you're chasing real accuracy, tight bass, or that holographic soundstage, you'll want to keep climbing the ranking. These are friendly, likable speakers, just not the ones that make you stop and say, wow. JBL L26. Decade L36. All right, we're entering the top half now with number 5. The JBL L26 Decade and L36. These usually go for $200 to $290 a pair in decent shape. JBL's West Coast sound is legendary, and these models carry that DNA, built with that classic JBL punch and clarity. They were designed to rock when you listen. The vocals jump right out at you forward and present. The bass is tighter and more controlled than anything we've heard so far in this list. There's real energy and dynamics that make rock, blues, and funk come alive. The treble has that characteristic JBL sparkle without being harsh. Compared to the Polk at #6, these are far more accurate and exciting. They give you a taste of that professional studio monitor heritage without breaking the bank. The best part, parts are still widely available and relatively cheap. Refoam kits are easy to find, and diaphragms are still manufactured. These have real upgrade potential if you want to go further later. They're not perfect. They can sound a little bright in overly reflective rooms, but overall, they deliver serious performance for the money. That's why they earn the number 5 spot. Number 4 takes us into truly excellent territory with the KLH Model 17 and Model 6. Right now, you can pick up a solid pair for $130 to $240. After leaving Acoustic Research, Henry Kloss helped found KLH and set out to bring real high-fidelity sound to regular people. These models are pure East Coast sound, warm, balanced, and musical. When I sit down with these, the mid-range is just gorgeous smooth, rich, and incredibly natural. Voices sound full-bodied and lifelike. The bass is surprisingly well controlled for a small sealed cabinet, tight and accurate, without any boominess. The treble is sweet and never harsh. Soundstage is wide and stable, especially with good placement. They shine with jazz, acoustic guitar, vocals, and classical music, where nuance and tone matter most. Compared to the JBL at #5, these sound more natural and relaxed at moderate volumes. The JBL brings more energy and excitement, but the KLH feels more refined and less colored. The only real weakness is they don't play extremely loud as effortlessly as some ported designs, and the larger floor standers just don't exist in the lineup. These are easy to restore standard driver sizes, mean refoaming costs around $40, 70 per woofer, and parts are still available. If you want musicality and long listening sessions without fatigue, the KLH models are hard to beat at this price. That's why they sit comfortably at number 4. Large Advent Walnut Cabinet. Here we go, a legend in the budget world, the large Advent, especially the walnut versions. Clean pairs are selling between $180 and $280 right now. Henry Kloss left KLH to start Advent with one mission: build a speaker that sounds as good as the best on the market, but sells for half the price. The large Advent did exactly that when it launched in 1969. These things are impressive. The bass extends surprisingly deep for the size tight, tuneful, and authoritative down into the low 40s. The mid-range is wonderfully natural and uncolored, and the dome tweeter is smooth without ever sounding dull or etched. The soundstage is open and convincing. You can listen for hours without ear fatigue. They handle rock, jazz, classical, and vocals beautifully. Compared to the KLH at #4, the large Advent brings more bass authority and scale while keeping that same natural tone. It's the kind of speaker that makes you forget you're on a budget. The only minor downside is the cabinets can look dated, and the original foam surrounds will almost certainly need replacing if they're old. But refoaming is simple and cheap, usually $30, 50 per woofer, and the job takes under an hour. These speakers sold in huge numbers, so good examples are still relatively easy to find. The performance you get for the money is absolutely staggering. That's exactly why the large Advent earns a well-deserved spot at number 3. Number 2 is a real sleeper hit, the Dynaco A-25. Right now, you can find nice pairs for $150 to $260. Dynaco is famous for making high-quality audio gear that regular people could afford, and the A-25 is one of their finest efforts from the early 1970s. It uses a sealed acoustic suspension design with a 10-inch woofer and an excellent dome tweeter. When I listen to these, the balance is outstanding. The soundstage is surprisingly wide and deep for such a compact speaker. Detail retrieval is excellent. You hear the subtle finger work on acoustic guitar strings or the decay of piano notes. Vocals are incredibly natural and intimate, especially with female voices like Billie Holiday or Joni Mitchell. Bass is tight, accurate, and well extended. Treble is clean and extended without any fatigue. These speakers make acoustic music, folk, jazz, and small ensemble classical sound magical. Compared to the large Advent, the Dynaco A-25 is a bit more refined and has a wider, more precise soundstage. Though the Advent has slightly more bass weight, the best part, they're lightweight, easy to place, and very reliable, fewer issues than many vintage speakers of this era. If the foam surrounds need replacing, it's a simple job costing around $40, 60 per driver. Because they're compact and neutral, they're perfect for smaller rooms or as a starting point for a serious vintage system. The A-25 is the definition of quietly brilliant, and that's why it earns the number 2 spot on this list. Acoustic Research AR7 or AR2X. Best. Overall, and finally, the champion number 1 is the Acoustic Research AR7 or AR2AX. You can still find excellent pairs for $160 to $290 in 2026. Acoustic Research basically invented the modern sealed box speaker when Edgar Vilcher developed the acoustic suspension principle in the 1950s. The AR7 and AR2X are perfect examples of that groundbreaking technology. These speakers are incredibly balanced. The bass is accurate, tight, and goes surprisingly deep thanks to the acoustic suspension design. The mid-range is clean, transparent, and incredibly detailed vocals and instruments sound almost lifelike. The treble is smooth and refined, never harsh. Imaging and soundstage are the best in this entire list. You can clearly place every instrument in the room, whether I'm listening to a delicate classical piece, complex jazz like Miles Davis, or energetic rock. These speakers handle everything with authority and grace compared to everything else on this list. The AR models simply do more things right. They have better balance, superior imaging, and more natural tone than even the excellent Advent and Dynaco. They're also very upgrade-friendly. You can replace capacitors, refoam woofers, and even upgrade tweeters while keeping the soul of the speaker intact. Restoration parts are plentiful and affordable. Ref ohm usually $40, $70 per driver. This is the speaker that proves you don't need to spend a fortune to get real high-end performance. Accurate, musical, and timeless. The AR7.AR2A is the clear winner and the smartest buy under $300. That's why it sits at number 1. And that's the list. Everybody. 9 speakers under $300. Ranked from worst to first. At the end of the day, the most important thing isn't the brand on the front, it's how the speaker actually sounds in your room and whether it's worth your hard-earned money. The top 3 on this list prove that you don't need to spend a fortune to get seriously good sound. My final advice, buy smart. Test thoroughly when you can, and don't be scared of a little restoration work. A good pair of these vintage speakers with fresh foam can easily last you another 20 years and still sound fantastic. If this video helped open your eyes to some real value in the used market, do me a huge favor and smash that like button. Drop a comment below and let me know which speaker surprised you the most. Are you Team Advent, Team Dynaco, or Team Acoustic Research? I read every single comment. Make sure you're subscribed to Audio Legend and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. I'm Ray Cole. Stay curious. Keep listening, and I'll see you in the next one.